What's up, everybody? My name's Craig Stout. This is the live stream for the AP Laboratory, episode 48. Episode 48. That's the one that it is. As usual, I got with me Kent Swanson and Matt Lane. We will give it a little bit here, and then we will get stuff started, answer your questions, talk to you guys a little bit, hang out in the chat for a little bit, guys. Yeah, enjoy yourselves. If this is your first time, say hi. We'll say hi back, probably. Hi. So, yeah. How's everybody doing today? Matt, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? Oh, man, I'm doing pretty good. Long evening. Didn't get much sleep over the last 48-hour period. So, we're dragging along. But we had coffee late in the day, so we should be good.
Ooh, late day coffee's my favorite, man. My favorite. Get wired right before bedtime.
I like early coffee, midday coffee, late day coffee, dessert coffee, kind of all the coffees. Mm-hmm. They're all pretty good.
Yeah, that's Kent and Jake, when we went to Mobile, bombed out. Like they stopped drinking coffee early in the day, and then they ended up sleeping in.
I'm very confused by their tactics.
I know. Yeah, they ended up sleeping in like super late. So yeah, no, that didn't fly with us. We were up early. We had to get on top of those pancake flights at the Ruby Slipper, start pounding coffee, get on that, man. Yeah.
We had full breakfasts, and we're on our second cup of coffee before we ever saw Jake or Kent.
Hey, did you? Are we live?
Yeah, Kent, we're live. Welcome to the live stream, buddy.
My internet crashed.
Well, welcome back.
What are you gonna do? Can't win them all, right?
How you doing tonight, Kent?
I'm doing really good. I have my throat spray just in case. It's brought to you by Top Care. Hy-Vee's #1 selling throat spray, because I ate all the cough drops last week.
You heard it here first, everybody. If you want to run in to Kent Swanson by chance, go shop at Hy-Vee. That's where
you look at the Hy-Vee brand throat spray, not Vicks or the NyQuil Dayquil version.
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's actually Hy-Vee's. It's just Top Care, whatever Top Care is. But it seems to be like a Hy-Vee brand type thing.
I'll give you a word of advice, Kent. When you're after that sponsorship money, you gotta know whose brand it is. Doesn't do us a lot of good to say we don't know who actually owns this if we're sending this clip in to, get an ad.
It would literally be the worst. Never mind. I'm not going to slander a potential sponsor.
We are not getting sponsored by a throat spray. We all know this.
I feel like that would be like the least productive, useful thing that you could be sponsored by.
Don't you? Okay.
Because like a lifetime supply of throat spray, I'm sick for a week. But I'm sick for a week, a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, based on recent history.
We're going on like 3.5 weeks of you being sick currently.
Feels like it. I mean, how much potting did I do last week? Did I do half the episodes last week, or what?
No, you did. You did all the episodes.
I did.
It was 2 weeks ago that Maddie and I flew solo.
It's all running together.
Yeah.
I'm out next week.
Oh man, yeah, you are out next week. We're gonna have special guests next week. It's gonna be amazing.
It is.
Yeah. Craig's gonna be outnumbered. Not gonna leak a special guest, but Craig will be outnumbered next week.
Yeah. Handsomeness. Yeah.
Very astute joke there, Matthew. I like it.
All right, Kent. You ready to get this show on the road?
Not really.
Hey guys, what are we talking about today?
The mailbag. Whatever the fine people here on the mailbag want to ask. So you have the rundown.
Ask me the questions about Norwegian sheep shearing.
Yeah, that's kind of please elaborate.
I don't know anything about it, but ask us questions about it.
Many of skills.
I was about to say,
Norwegian sheep.
Craig definitely knows about that.
Is that different than like a Danish sheep?
Well, I mean, yeah, It's not Danish. It's
Completely
Norwegian.
different hair pattern. Yeah, I got you. Understandable. Different climates, everything.
Right. Yeah. See,
Totally different latitudes.
The humidity makes the wool denser when you're trying to shear it. Like you have to use special shears, and you have to comb it out a little bit first.
Oh, you got to straighten it, just like the barbershop. You got to spray it down with some water, get the comb out.
Before we start, I just want to shout out everyone but Bearcat on the live stream.
Got the question about watching U.S. men's national team in 45 minutes. No, Sam, I'm not. We're going to be potting, and so nope, I won't. And honestly, the way they've been playing, I'm not missing a whole lot. So
we suck.
Watch the women
national team sponsorship either.
Mm-hmm.
What's worse, the arc of the U.S. men's national team or Bob Sutton?
Oh, that's really tough. Look for my 2,000-word article on that tomorrow. Be up all night long writing that.
Do you know?
Oh, how much so far?
Do you know how sad it is? Like they just have to be like functional. Like make the World Cup. That would have been so much more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not going to pretend to put my foot in this dance.
I think the stance of the U.S. men's national team shouldn't suck is probably universal, though. I mean,
let's be real. I get you, but then like when you're a kid and you're athletic and you're going into sports in the U.S., soccer's your 18th option.
What do you think Christian Pulisic's 3-cone is?
Fast, really fast.
Honestly. Is it faster than 8.08?
Oh God, yes, easily.
Okay. All right, we should probably get this thing going.
Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kent Swanson. I'm the lead film and draft analyst for Arrowhead Pride. This is the AP Laboratory, the Mailbag edition for the week. Before I pass it to Matthew Lane, I probably need to mention, watch this, Maddie.
I got you.
If you like the show, if you like what we're doing over here on the Arrowhead Pride podcast channel, we would greatly appreciate your 5-star reviews. 5, yes, good job, Matthew. I've been reading some of them lately. So nice of all of you. It means the world to us that you guys go out and give us those 5-star reviews. Thank you so much. It helps us. It helps the show. It helps the channel. But I am joined by Maddie Lane and Craig Stouts. Matthew, how are you this fine day?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing good. Normally I have some fun, witty stuff to say about you, but actually we got some important business to attend to. So this week I put up a poll on Twitter. Craig's nickname of the Renaissance Man will forever go down in the history of the football world as the Renaissance Man. But I think it's time. It's time we moved on. We need to broaden his horizon. He's now been on television. He's got pictures of him strolling down the Hollywood Boulevard with his family. Everybody's looking really fly. It was time to get a new nickname out there in the world for Mr. Barley Hop. And I say Barley Hop because the actual new nickname of Craig Stout is now Barley Stunner. It won the vote by exactly 2% with 38%. And while I would have preferred Hollywood Hop because it fit the sunglasses picture perfectly, I think his swag was just a little bit too high, so people just had to go with the Barley Stunner. So now we have Craig Stout, Renaissance Man, Man of the People, Bearded Man Wonder, any other nicknames you guys have, and now you can add Barley Stunner on to the top of the list, and that will definitely be Craig's next tattoo.
I hate you guys so much.
So I have this new thing. I want to keep adding like AKA after Craig's name to like all of his nicknames.
Nobody wants to listen to this. Nobody.
So this is a very organic thing. We'll continue to grow it. If we find one that deems AKA worthiness, we'll add it. So it's Craig Stout, AKA Barley Hop, AKA the Renaissance Man, AKA Barley Stunner.
Yeah, that's what the people voted on. I said I liked Hollywood Hop, but the people voted for Barley Stunner, so we have to go with what the people say.
I voted for Hollywood Hop. I'll just leave it at that.
I didn't vote because the vote was dumb.
Well, you didn't exercise your rights as an American citizen, so I have no pity on you. Just leave it at that.
That's fair.
So today we're going to do the mailbag. We got a lot of great questions. I wanted to make one observation. I was reading through the questions today, and it's very clear that Chiefs fans have kind of moved into off-season mode. The questions are a little bit more hypothetical, a little bit more about next year's team, not what who's going to play corner, but more like, I don't know, more interesting questions of kind of more hypotheticals, a broader scope. It's very interesting to see that transition from everybody. It was kind of interesting. So we'll start with this one. Our guy, Keith McLean, 78. First time's a charm. Will hashtag camp interceptions be a thing again this year? You want to know something? I think the training camp interceptions from Patrick Mahomes will be kind of a litmus test to how Chiefs fans are. If they are going to lean on their history of depression and sadness and bad things happening to them, then they might freak out about the camp interceptions. Or if they're really fully leaned into the new era of Patrick Mahomes, where they saw him throw a lot of interceptions last year and then go out and be the MVP, then no, it's not going to be a thing. I still think there's going to be a faction of fans that are a little bit stressed about training camp interceptions, Matthew.
Yeah, and I think you're going to have a couple certain media members pushing that narrative a little bit too, like we have most years. So it's going to come along, and I think we're in the dark period of football here. There's not going to be a lot of Chiefs news coming out. So when you get a report from somebody that comes out and says Patrick Mahomes threw 18 interceptions today, some people are going to take a peek at it. Does it matter? No. But if people are going to talk about it, probably. And then on top of that, I think some people are expecting a little bit, not even necessarily Chiefs fans, but national media are expecting a bigger regression than I think Chiefs fans are prepared for right now, myself included. So you're going to get some of these people talking about regression that are going to come out and talk about his interceptions, how he should have thrown more interceptions last year than he actually did, little stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a story again. It's just it shouldn't matter to you as a fan.
Correct. ESPN's going to talk about it. It won't matter, especially since the secondary is better. They're throwing a lot more at Pat. Pat's going to make some more mistakes in training camp, trying to push the envelope a little more and trying to develop more as a quarterback. He already's thrown a bunch in OTAs that we know of. So it's not that big of a deal. Don't let it be that big of a deal. Just when you see it, ignore it, because camp interceptions don't matter.
Shaking my head. Regression's already kicking in for Mahomes, just throwing interceptions left and right. Schweb29 asks, who would you rather see make this roster? Deion Yelder or the new guy at tight end, Neil Sterling?
Deion Yelder, I guess, by default. I think Deion Yelder is a little bit of a more unknown to me, and I think to everybody else, just there is some stuff to work with there in terms of an athletic profile. He flashed some stuff in college, even though it was a lower level of competition. So I'd like to see him go out, see what he can do, see if he develops along maybe the same path that Demetrius Harris did, to where a year from now he becomes an acceptable player as a backup that maybe even continues to progress like Harris did throughout his career.
Yeah, and Andy Reid seems to like him. I think that Andy Reid really wanted to see him in camp, really wanted to see him develop as a player. So I think he's got a little bit more of the inside track, even though it seems like Brett Veach is just wheeling and dealing with whatever vet tight end that he can find right now. So I think unless a guy gets cut, I think that you should expect that Deion Yelder is going to be your tight end too.
Yeah, and I wrote about Deion Yelder last week. I got into his tape a little bit more. I went back to 2017. There's some positive things in there. I still think tight end two's a big mystery, and I don't feel overly optimistic about whoever's filling that role. Even Deion Yelder, who I reviewed a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Mr. C. David asked, and he asked 3 questions, so we're each going to answer one. Will Mahomes have more or less than 12 interceptions? He's going to have more, but it's going to be 13. So there's that. Craig, who is one player most fans are overlooking that will have a significant impact this year?
Well, up until last week, it was Alex Okafor, and then the Alex Okafor media tour started. So
yes, it did. I even watched Okafor tape last week.
Yeah. He's going to be good. He's going to get plenty of one-on-one opportunities opposite of Frank Clark and Chris Jones. He's going to probably be your third highest sack total guy. I think that he's going to be good, but I'll go with Emmanuel Ogbah. Everything's been silent about him since the trade. Like, there was a little conversation right afterwards, but not much since. And I think he's a guy that offers some depth both inside and outside, kind of like Breeland Speaks. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think that he's got a little bit more of an NFL game developed already. So I think he will have an impact this year along that defensive line.
I kind of wish I would have asked Maddie that question, because I'm about to ask him this one, and I think I already regret it. Maddie, will Breeland Speaks ever be a productive player for the Chiefs?
Define productive.
You define productive.
Well, is he going to see NFL snaps? Is he going to take snaps on the field when the game matters? Yes, I think he will, probably even this year. Will he particularly do the most with those snaps, especially this year? I don't think so. I don't know if Breeland Speaks is a starting level player in the NFL. I don't know where he wins well enough, consistently enough to get on the field as a starter, to play more than 50% of the snaps. I don't see a path for him on the Chiefs, just from what we've seen so far, to be a guy that is playing at a starting level. Now, as a rotational player, as a guy that might pick up 4 or 5 sacks in a year, play a little bit on the inside, play a little bit on the outside, and serve a specific role, sure, he can do that for the Chiefs this year, next year, might even move on to another team and do it. It just depends on kind of what you're thinking about in terms of productive player. And really, given his draft slot of the second round, if he's a key rotational player for the Chiefs for this contract, maybe gets a second one, that's a fine draft pick. It's just, when you were looking at it from the Chiefs' perspective, they traded up for him. You kind of hope for a little bit more than that.
I was actually going to ask you what he needed to do to kind of earn pick 46. It kind of sounds like you gave a good enough answer there.
Yeah, and I think I'm always going to want more, just because I think there were other players on the draft board at the time. I didn't particularly see the use of the pick. I think you could have got him later. But if you're talking about a second-round pass rusher, defensive lineman, you don't expect those guys to become stars. Now, you would prefer them to be a starter, but if Breeland Speaks can be a key rotational player, and like I said, execute and succeed in specific roles, then yeah, it's worth it. The trade-up part makes it a little trickier, but as far as just the 46th pick, then yeah, I think just be on the field when it matters for specific situations.
Lowlit McGee asks, who are the worst fans out of all the AFC West teams and why? So there's no Chargers fans. So that they're eliminated already. Raiders fans, like, they just haven't been relevant in long enough to even like consider them. I think it's the Broncos by default, and they are kind of annoying. They kind of puff their chests out a little bit more than you got Joe Flacco as your quarterback. Quit trying to talk yourself into being anything.
Yeah, for me, I think it's and that's Chargers fans. I was trying to talk myself into somebody else, but no, it's Chargers fans. They hype themselves up.
Chargers fan?
No, there's 2 of them in the stadium.
Fan?
There's 2 of them in the stadium every week. I see them. I mean, they might be selling concessions or something, but they're there with Chargers gear on. But
I think it's the owner and his wife.
Shout out to Bolts from the Blue.
Whatever. Are they an SB Nation site?
Yeah.
Oh. I didn't know they had enough to sustain.
Yikes, Kent. Just walk it back, Kent. Just walk it back. But
no, it's okay.
Because every year somebody pumps them up as the team to beat in the AFC West, and every year they are beaten in the AFC West. So at some point in time, you think their fans have quit talking about that same thing over and over again. Like, just show up and do something. At least the Broncos had multiple runs where they were, actually good and accomplished something. Chargers haven't been there. They've never done that. Just act like you've been there before. Oh, you haven't been there before, so you don't know what you're supposed to act like. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's the Broncos, and unfortunately, they have had recent success with Peyton Manning.
With someone else's quarterback.
Somebody else's quarterback, but even still, John Elway was somebody else's. Lynn Dawson was somebody else's quarterback. But no, it's
Patrick Mahomes is ours.
That's true. That's
just
true.
Saying. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah,
actually, Cliffs. So
he ain't going to Arizona.
Now, I got one more. I got one more Chargers joke. If you've got more, sorry.
No, it's the Broncos. Just because they're hanging their hat on a defensive Super Bowl led by Peyton Manning in his last year there. So
Peyton didn't do anything. He looked like Tom Brady last year.
We got him benched.
Yeah, we did. It'll be interesting to see. Here's my Chargers joke. It'll be interesting to see how many fans show up when their home stadium can fit more than Phillip Rivers kids. Moving on. Nate CH479 asks, hypothetical, Jalen Ramsey for Chris Jones. Who says no? Obviously not being serious, just wondering what your thoughts were. Who says no?
Maybe the Jaguars, because they don't want to pay another defensive tackle $20+ million. Listen, I love Chris Jones. I would make that trade for the Chiefs. Jalen Ramsey is going to cost at least $5 million a year less than Chris Jones is probably going to cost. Chris Jones is an excellent impact player, but so is Jalen Ramsey. And the way that this team is built right now, Jalen Ramsey makes a significant impact in that secondary. I think Jalen Ramsey takes him over the top there a little bit. And I think the Chiefs would make that move because they would believe in Spagnuolo and Brendan Daly's ability to get the most out of the guys that they have.
Yeah, I'm with Craig. I think Jacksonville says no, and I don't think they would hesitate too long to say no. Chris Jones is going to get a lot of money. That defensive line's already got a lot of money and high kind of draft picks and capital players in it. They don't necessarily need another high-priced defensive tackle. They just drafted Taven Bryan in the last year. He kind of fits that same general mold as Chris Jones. They're hoping he turns into something. If they let Jalen Ramsey go, yeah, they still have A.J. Bouye, but they just lost their nickel cornerback from last year. They'd just be replacing a lot in the secondary. And as far as the Chiefs go, I think that they would make that move incredibly fast. You still get a young, top-tier corner. He's going to be cheaper than Chris Jones. You fill a bigger need for the type of defense that Steve Spagnuolo runs. I think it'd be a no-brainer for the Chiefs. I just don't think the Jaguars would consider it too awful long.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all. I don't even have anything else to add. Kay Gumminger asks, who are the likeliest candidates for the first reported training camp fight? I love this question.
I know this answer.
I think I do too. I'm glad I'm going first so that Maddie doesn't steal my answer. I think it's going to be Frank Clark and Eric Fisher.
Everybody. Oh, wrong.
Thief.
Frank Clark versus everybody.
Thief.
It's Frank Clark fighting the entire offensive line.
I mean, that's close. I could see just Eric Fisher kind of has that vibe of like he if he gets like, irritated enough, he might go out and pick a fight. And I think Frank Clark is just going to be actively trying.
Yeah, it's those two. Dark horse, me versus the Sun. That's
the Sun's gonna win.
The Sun always wins.
Craig is definitely minus 3,000 in the odds in Vegas right now.
So it'll be the Tannazance man.
Okay, nope.
No.
So moving on.
Red Assance man.
Nope.
The Red Assance man.
I'm gonna go with Andrew Wiley and Frank Clark. I'm just trying to think of two guys I think are gonna be trying an awful lot. I think you might get just one of these times when the pads start to come on, things get a little bit more physical. I could see Frank Clark trying like he's going to. Andrew Wiley seems like a fun, energetic guy that, he might get a little upset. I could see him trying extra hard too. Now, my thing is, I don't know if Frank Clark's going to get mad if an offensive lineman tries against him. And Wiley may not be a guy that's just going to get mad. That's why I think Fisher was probably the best pick there. But Wiley and Frank Clark could definitely go at it, get pretty physical, and maybe somebody gets upset and goes on. I'm just trying to think who's going to most stand up to Frank Clark because he's coming 110% even in practice every single play. And offensive linemen don't like that.
It's Dustin Colquitt. Frank Clark and Dustin Colquitt.
Offensive linemen. Oh, Colquitt versus Jack Fox.
Ooh. A little hint of jealousy there from Dustin Colquitt.
That vet savvy to him. Nah.
Sidebar. Which fight would you most want to see at training camp?
Okay. Hold on. I got to think about this one pretty hard.
Tano Passigno versus...
Is Tano fiery enough to fight? Like at all?
That's the point.
Like, because he's got the build and the length to do damage, but he probably doesn't have the technique, which is why he can't get on the field.
Who's he fighting?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Derek Nottie. There we go.
Oh my God! Wait, they're both on defense.
That's
Hey, we are taking gap assignments very seriously this year.
Does Tano just put his hand on him and try to hold him back like a child and let Nottie swing?
I want to see.
How to clear those hands and get inside of him, though.
Here's what I want. I want. Let's call it Dion Yelder to try to punk Dan Sorensen like what's his name did last year,
where he broke his knee.
Yeah, and I want to see if Dan's learned his lesson, and if he's just like, nah, we ain't having this.
Get up and bury him in the grass.
It's redemption. Yeah. I want to see if Dan Sorensen can get redemption.
I want to see a Tyrann Mathieu versus Mecole Hardman.
Oh, okay. That sounds a little like some shade.
What? I just would like to see two guys go out there, show some fire, and get into it. Have two guys go out there and show like they care.
Steve Gray Jr. asks.
I know one of them does.
Steve Gray Jr. asks, what would you have to see in 2019 to be convinced that Damian Williams is better than Kareem Hunt in this offense?
Not gonna happen. I don't think that you can convince me. I love Damian Williams. I think he's going to be a very good player, but Kareem Hunt was fantastic. And if I'm going to knock him for anything in terms of being in this offense, it was that he didn't trust his coaches enough to tell them what he did off the field to stay in this offense. Like on the field, you can't really have much of a complaint for what Kareem Hunt could do and did do in this offense. So I don't think that anything is going to point me to saying Damian Williams is a better fit as a football player than Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, and I think Damian's going to be in a little bit of a committee. Like, I think, we saw that Kareem got the lion's share of stuff. There were some rotational guys that kind of sifted in here and there. I think we're going to see Damian get the bulk. I mean, they've called him running back one, but I think we are going to see plenty of Carlos Hyde. I think we are going to see plenty of Darwin Thompson.
James Williams?
What's that?
We're going to see plenty of James Williams?
Oh, no, we're not.
Because, we got to pour one out?
Because we got to pour one out, yeah. No, I just think that he's just not going to get the same opportunities. He's a different blend of back. I wouldn't want to give him the same amount of opportunities that Kareem Hunt got. He's still a very good back. This run game is still going to operate at a very, very, very high level. I just don't think that they are a like-for-like comparison.
They don't need Damian Williams to be Kareem Hunt. It does not matter. They are going to be just fine. They were just fine without Kareem Hunt last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the same dude. He's not going to – they don't have a workhorse necessarily, and it doesn't matter. They're going to be just fine in the running game.
Speaking of running backs, another fight I want to see is Tano Passanio versus Darwin Thompson.
Oh, Darwin might win that.
That would be a fun one to watch.
It kind of would, and you won. You won the day because that's the answer. We're going to take the rest of your questions after this.
All right, stream. I had some questions I caught on here. Somebody said, "Did you hear me say Breland Speaks would get a second contract?" It's possible if he's going to take a role player's money with the Chiefs, and they have talked about they like guys who can play inside, outside. So if you can sign him for pennies on the dollar to play a role that plays some D end, some D tackle, yeah, I think it's possible.
Also, this is just the realities of these ego GMs and stuff. They like to extend their guys. They like to re-sign their guys. It makes them look better, they think. Like they'll prioritize their players. They'll prioritize taking care of their guys over, someone else's guys. I think partially that's why Breland Speaks got more time than Tano Passanio last year, but that's just me. I have a theory. Actually, it's not a theory. I have an idea. I think, there's a swear jar. I feel like we need a Mecole slander jar for Maddie.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do. And every time you slander Mecole, And maybe just like there's like a level that you can't cross.
That wasn't even really slander.
No, it just reminded me. I feel like we need to like come up with some kind of Mecole jar.
Well, I'll tell you what. Every time Mecole, makes me eat my words, maybe I'll put $1 in there.
Oh, that's not fun. I would just be interested to see you show restraint.
I did the other week. And every time I show restraint, you start poking the bear, Kent.
I didn't poke the bear.
You
just went out there and said
this wasn't slander. There was last week maybe it was a couple weeks ago, but one podcast I was trying not to slander him, and then you hit me with a Mecole Hardman question. You just kept poking, and it just had to come out.
I heard that little jab at the end. I heard that little Mecole jab at the end. We have to play it back.
If we get a Mecole jar, then can I get a swear jar and just basically all of my audio is just bleeps?
We're trying to get 5. Maybe we'll get more 5-star reviews.
There you go. I don't have to listen to Craig anymore. It's just bleeps.
A Fenton slander jar, but he's much more deserving of heavy slander than Mecole. Debatable. What's the bucket?
Was Mecole drafted in the 6th round?
I mean,
Samuel.
They're competing for the same position as a kick returner. So, I mean, really, we're just talking about the difference in draft position.
Jar. That's a jar. See, and here's the thing. Maybe we just keep this inside joke going for only the people that watch the video. So anytime you say Mecole moving forward, we just say jar. And we're going to get someone asking us on Twitter one day, why do you keep saying jar every time Maddie slanders Mecole?
Better question. What do we have to see from Williams to not expect the team to draft the 2nd or 3rd round running back next year? Life. I don't think the Chiefs are drafting a 2nd or 3rd round running back next year unless both Darwin Thompson and Damian Williams show not to be real football players.
Damian Williams is under contract next year. And so, I mean, he's part of this. Darwin's part of this. Daryl of the Barrel is part of this.
Drop the Daryl of Barrel nickname.
There's not a chance I am dropping Daryl the Barrel. It is some of my best work, and it is greatly underappreciated. And I will continue to run with that for the length of time. And he's still on the team. So, I mean, that's happening.
There was some other questions up here I wanted to see, but I am kind of.
Let me go look.
Well, if you guys have any questions in between segments, you can hit us up with again. I tried to remember some as we were going, but then we kind of got off on Mecole Hardman versus Rashad Fenton for kick returner 1 duties.
Jar.
That one's a jar. All right.
Chris Albright said San Francisco 33ers. Did you guys see that someone picked them to go 3-13 this year?
Who picked them to go 3-13?
Someone on NFL Network.
The fantasy dude, Adam Rank, and I kind of like Adam Rank, but his picks to go 3-13 or worse were awful. It was like the Titans, the Broncos, the Redskins, the 49ers, and somebody else that wasn't actually terrible. If one of those teams goes 3-13 without a major injury, I was going to be surprised, but let alone all of them.
Right.
It was a weird pick. Now, the Redskins I can buy, actually, because they don't have a quarterback. But the rest of those teams, I guess the Titans don't have a quarterback either. But
Matt, you can answer this one. I just want to read it. Brandon Key, how are they going to use Carlos Hyde versus the Barrel?
Carlos Hyde's going to get all the snaps that Daryl should get because he's a better player currently. I like Daryl Williams, too. Everybody that followed me last year knows that I like Daryl Williams. I just think Carlos Hyde's been kind of underappreciated by Chiefs fans so far. I think people kind of forget how good of a football player he was even 2 years ago while even dealing with that big foot injury. So last year he was playing pretty much in a weird offense with that Browns offensive line that wasn't as good as the rest of the team for a lot of the year. And he still made some plays, and then he got shredded around. So I just think Hyde's a better player.
And just so you know, I'm kind of lockstep with you. Carlos Hyde might be a sneaky, decent compensatory formula piece next year. He's I could see him creeping up into that 5th round range. Where he's going to get a little bit of money. I could see that. maybe a $3-4 million. I think that gets you close to that
This
round pick.
podcast isn't about predicting future comp picks, Kent.
It is. You're missing the point of this entire thing. This is all about the compensatory picks.
Well,
I'm
just so glad that our guy Bearcat is in the chat right now so that he can hear the Carlos Hyde praise because he dislikes Carlos Hyde.
I know he's very anti-Carlos Hyde.
Bearcat doesn't like Carlos Hyde?
He doesn't like Carlos Hyde.
We talked about it before. I'm not 100% sure exactly why, but
go stick your nose in a spreadsheet, Bearcat.
If it's a big-bodied back that can pass protect and catch passes, like real passes, not just swing passes, like I don't understand how you can be aggressively against them as a player. So like I've never quite understood the Carlos Hyde dislike. Now, if you think he's a little overpaid, maybe. But again, he was so good 2-3 years ago before that foot injury. So I don't know.
We're talking about overpaying. We have $20 million in cap space.
26.
$26 million in cap space. Bearcat, you should know that.
Break your sadness from 1 to Sam on the decision to cut James Booby Williams for a tight end 3 at best. All right, Sam, I got bad news for you. I didn't get to say this last week. There's a very, very good chance that James Williams is not a good football player. Let's be real here. The guy was an undrafted free agent that didn't particularly get a huge contract for a running back from NFL teams. He then barely made it to the Chiefs, a team that is very willing to use a receiving running back. He didn't even make it to training camp. So whether he's not picking up the system or just showed absolutely nothing, I just think that we, in an era of liking pass-catching running backs, maybe overrated James Williams a little bit just because we like this specific trait, when as an actual football player, the NFL did not value him very highly, and a team that's very friendly to his skill set didn't even value him that highly. So we might have just missed on the James Williams hype.
And I'll add, because I did the James eval and all that stuff, it is a very, even if you go back and read what I wrote about when we were doing lottery ticket, or not lottery tickets, when we were doing the 25 days of draft miss, he had a write-up. It's a very specific trait that he has, and it's ability, out of the backfield as a pass catcher. He's not particularly good as a runner, and he's not particularly good between the tackles as a runner. He's got questionable vision. He's really good in space, and he makes people miss, and he's good catching the ball. But and Andy, I could see him wanting to be able to trust more about his game. I could see them wanting to be able to trust more about his game than just those definable traits. But it was just kind of looking for if they really desire that pass catcher trait. I think that's what we've been talking about, is if they really desire that pass catcher trait, he makes sense. But there was still holes in his game, admittedly.
Yeah. Okay, we got one more here before we bounce back in. If all three of you were physically fighting, who would win?
Oh, I'm toast.
Matt.
Kent would win hands down, because there's no way I'm going to rough up his hair. So I got to leave that in pristine condition. So I just tap out from the get-go, is to not mess with that masterpiece.
I would break a hip getting in the ring. So I'm out.
The first punch I land, my arthritis would flare up like. Look, guys, I have really bad arthritis. It's not good. I have blown up, swelled up fingers. Craig,
I actually would like to just see Kent throw a punch. I don't even need it to connect. I want to
that would be fun.
And I wouldn't do it. I've got so many flared up joints. Me and Craig would just be in a hugging contest. We're just lovers, not fighters. Maddie would win.
I got that.
Yeah.
Got the wingspan. He can get a big embrace.
It's true.
Major embrace. All right, we should probably get going.
Yeah.
We should get going.
I think
let's get this bad boy.
Nope, real quick, I had to come back one more time. James White's a very good football player, and he can actually run the ball. Part of the thing with James White is if you're going to give him nobody in the box and then you get him in space, he's going to make everybody miss. And he's capable of being, at least a halfway decent runner when there's a bunch of space. I'm not sure James Williams is a halfway decent runner in practice. So I think that's probably why you see him get cut. That's why it's kind of hard to make that parallel to me. I think James White is a guy that is going to be 100% a receiver with no chance to ever carry the ball effectively. You might as well make him a slot receiver, in my opinion. So that's where I see a little bit of disconnect there. So,
well, yeah, I'm just gonna go look up the KC draft guide real quick because I'm pretty sure I gave him the James White comp. So this might be my fault.
Of course.
I mean, and no, from James White's receiving skill set, it makes sense. Just James White has also had stretches where he's been a good runner in like an actual football game.
I saw a guy that struggled to. It's like if you're trying to identify specific traits for like third down, then
yeah, no, and I'm not saying that I don't get the comp. I fully see the comp. It's just James White has been an effective runner in the NFL. I'm not sure James Williams is an effective runner in practice that doesn't allow tackling.
I don't know if I gave James Williams the James White comp actually because I didn't give him a write up. I just did a write up for the 25 days of draftness. So.
Right, now you're doing extra work on the draft.
Great content. I missed the draft already, guys.
All right, and 3, 2.
All right,
here we go. Hashtag Summer of Spags.
We're just having way too much fun with all y'all. So, and maybe one of these days, maybe we'll just do only questions from the feed. That might be a fun challenge. We'll see. That's risky. Okay, let's get this. Segment 2 in
we have
3.
More questions? Okay.
Oh my God, Matt. Here we go.
All right, Napoleon.
In 3, 2, 1. SoCal1186 asks, all the talking heads are saying the Chargers and their fan are the team to beat. I don't believe it, but what is the most dangerous part of their team?
Their lineup on paper. And that's about it. Because they find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, like you look at their roster, their pass rushers are great. Their safeties are really, really, really good. Phillip Rivers is an excellent quarterback that's defying the odds. Keenan Allen's really good. The rest of the receivers are really good. Like, there's a lot of spots on that team that are really, really good, and they consistently find ways to lose, find ways to miss field goals that would have won them games, things like that. So in reality, it's the sort of the specter of the Chargers, not necessarily the team itself.
Yeah, the most dangerous part of the Chargers team is definitely their preseason hype every year. But if the preseason hype of the Chargers will put every other team besides the Patriots to shame. It is just round 1 KO if you put them in a fight against anybody else. So, yeah, watch out for that. That early June, July hype, the Chargers win it every single year.
I mean, there is just a disconnect. I mean, they're talented. Like, they're right. You're talented on paper. And they have a ton of talent. They have a ton of premier talent in different spots on that roster. But they charger it every year. And the Chiefs have won how many straight AFC West championships? 2? 3? 3. We're going to dive into a little fantasy here. I like it. Fantasy football here. Oh, Taylor Holstein asks.
Fantasy house. Let's go. Fantasy football.
If Damien, I'm just gonna keep churning and burning through that one. If Damian Williams is still the starting running back, when do you snag him in a 12-man fantasy league? Funny enough, I was actually looking at a little bit of this earlier. I still think, even if he doesn't get, if he's not a workhorse per se, I still think you can look into that round 2, round 3 if you're in a PPR league. Kind of maybe back into round 2, early round 3. I would feel pretty good about taking maybe even mid round 2. PPR value, and he's still going to get a lot of volume. He's still going to get a lot of opportunities near the goal line.
Man, I'm not up to date on my fantasy football. When I first started playing, running backs were all the rage, like to go all over the first round. Then we saw the age where running backs fell out of favor for wide receivers. And now I think running backs are back in vogue again. I don't really know. I don't follow. If I was playing fantasy football, I would take Damian Williams in a 12-man fantasy league. I would feel pretty comfortable taking him in the 3rd round. I just think by then you're kind of at the point where the guys that will be better are going to be gone. And if you're taking a shot out of the next tier of guys that you can't slate above him for sure, I have no problem taking him as like the I don't know, the 10th running back whatsoever in a fantasy draft just because the offense that he's in. But again, I'm not a big fantasy guy anymore. I'll do one draft a year. I barely survived having to wear a Raiders jersey to training camp this year in our fantasy league. So take my advice with a grain of salt about fantasy football, guys.
I think that he's like the back half of round 2, early round 3, because he has more of a path to success than just running the ball. Like, he's going to catch the ball. He's going to score lots of touchdowns for this team. We saw it towards the end of the year there. He was a workhorse inside the 20s. They found him ways to get open and score touchdowns. I think that's going to continue this year. Even though I, think that there's going to be more of a running back by committee, that doesn't mean that he's not going to get the best looks of all those guys. So I think he's going to be able to do it through the air, on the ground, and I think he's going to score plenty of touchdowns. I think in that regard, that you can get a consistent performance from him week to week. So yeah, that's worth about the bottom of round 2, early round 3.
Craig, I want to follow up on that real quick with this. Who won the Arrowhead Pride Cup this year?
I honestly don't care.
Maddie, do you remember who won the Arrowhead Pride Cup this year?
Kent, I honestly have zero clue.
Kent, yeah, you said Kent. Yeah, no, that's right. I did. Thank you for remembering.
Playoffs right now. I know that I did not finish last,
which is all that matters.
I don't have to wear Raiders jersey now. This is to people going to training camps this May, because if I had to wear a Raiders jersey, I was buying a Khalil Mack jersey and then ripping it off for just any plain, boring Raiders jersey that compromises the rest of their defense after they traded him. But alas, I do not have to wear the Raiders gear. So I quit paying attention then.
And I was the farthest away from having to wear
guys,
that.
Congratulations to Kent. He won the AP Fantasy Football League that we cared very dearly about.
It means a lot. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Still waiting on my trophy, Peter, whenever you hear this.
Go, Pete. Hook this man up with a can of throat spray from Hyde. Make sure it's the top shelf stuff, please.
I mean, it's a major award. I won it. Garrett720 asks, who do you think leads the team in interceptions this season? There's only one person who could. That's Juan Thornhill. Juan Thornhill is going to lead this team in interceptions there. I said it.
Ken, I don't like
how the funnest answer.
Both questions that have had like player answers that are obvious, you put yourself first on the rundown. I think that is some insight and taking action going on here. So since Juan Thornhill is taken, I'm going to say Tyrann Mathieu, and I don't particularly feel great about my pick because I would go with Juan Thornhill as well.
It's Mathieu. I think that he's going to be used more like a weapon than anybody else on this defense is going to be used. And so I think they're going to give him a lot more opportunity to roam, rob routes, kind of jump things and give him a little extra protection because they know what he can do when he gets his hands on the ball. So I think it's him.
So Matt really picked Thornhill, so I wasn't the only one.
No,
Mr. Salad Bar asks, but you really wanted to pick the one and only answer.
No,
Mr. Salad Bar asked,
I can't wait for you to be gone next week.
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Mr. Salad Bar asks, if Tyreek Hill ends up playing in 2019, what role does Mecole Hardman play in the Chiefs' offense?
See what I mean? You set me up. Like, next time I'm going to have to bring a wad of cash, apparently, onto this for the jar. So here it is. When Tyreek Hill comes back to
we have a new Mecole slander jar, sorry.
Mecole Hardman is going to play the role of returner. And I'm pretty sure that's the role he was going to play even if Tyreek Hill isn't here. I think that Byron Pringle is a better vertical route runner. Demarcus Robinson is a better vertical route runner. They're both better underneath route runners. Cody Thompson's a better receiver all around in terms of technical skill. I'm not sure that Mecole Hardman is much more advanced than Marcus Kemp or Garrett Dieter as an actual wide receiver right now. So essentially, you're paying for him to occasionally run some deep routes and threaten teams deep, which he will do, and he will get on the field to do so with this offense, and he'll be a return man. But once Tyreek Hill's out there at that kind of speed, it's going to be much more spot duty for Mecole Hardman, in my opinion. I don't think he's ready for the NFL game on offense right now. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see undrafted free agents from the past 2 years to surpass him on the depth chart, especially once you get that elite level speed out there.
I could see him after Tyreek Hill comes back being more of a DeAnthony Thomas role in year one, catching a lot of bubbles, catching a lot of screens, and trying to use him, put him in space with the ball in his hands, because his speed is his best attribute right now. That's unquestionable right now. Jar. So you've really got to put the ball in his hands and try and help him to maximize his game here. And that's going to be done through a lot of bubbles, a lot of screens, things like that. That's how Georgia used him too, and he was effective in that role. So that I think Andy Reid will scheme up a lot of that stuff. There was a lot of conversation about Andy Reid's screen game this week. I think that really does play into it. I think Mecole Hardman can really thrive there if he's not being relied on to try and produce as like a wide receiver 2 in this offense. If you can bring him into spot duty and kind of use that speed, that's where he's going to be most effective.
The best thing that could happen to Mecole Hardman for a variety of reasons is if Tyreek Hill is on the field, because the developmental arc for him or the developmental path for him doesn't have to be rushed. Andy Reid can still manufacture touches for him, like Craig's saying, and get him some opportunities to utilize his speed, get him in space, give him some opportunities out there, and let him kind of develop. And honestly, like even if Tyreek Hill's lining up over at Z and they figure out something to do with Mecole Hardman and his speed, with everybody threatened by him, they could figure some stuff out where it could be relatively successful and efficient. So. It would really benefit Mecole Hardman to not have to be leaned on too much, because I don't think teams will honor that vertical threat as much as they would if he had a little bit more time and a little more sensitivity.
Part of the issue for me, though, is when you're thinking about DeAnthony Thomas being used in the screen game, what was he competing against for snaps? So putting DeAnthony Thomas out there to run pretty much just bubbles or gadget plays was really the best option. Whereas now, I think most Chiefs fans probably are a little bit higher on the Chiefs receiving core as a whole. So once you get Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill back there, like you're having to bench a Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, Cody Thompson, just somebody that I think that at least I think a lot of fans kind of feel are better players to run these gadget plays with Mecole Hardman. I think it's going to be hard to get a substantial amount of snaps in there if your goal is just to run a 9 or a bubble on every single play. So it's going to be very limited usage for me. Now, and I agree. I think Tyreek Hill playing is the best thing that can happen to Mecole, because you get a chance to just sit back and learn an offense that's pretty complex, that asks a lot out of you and gives you a chance to kind of transition into a receiver, still transitioning from a cornerback. It's just, I'm not sure that the opportunities are going to be there like they were for DeAnthony Thomas, given the way the Chiefs are set up right now.
Chancey asks, give me a starter from last season who is most likely not to be on the Chiefs roster come week 1.
This one was a tough one for me. I went naturally to the safety position because they addressed it so heavily this offseason that I think, and I'm not sure if it's Dan Sorensen or if it's Armani Watts, if you want to consider him a starter. He did technically get to do that for one game, but if you maybe Dan Sorensen, even though we all think that maybe he's a little bit better fit in this defense than Armani Watts is, and so he's kind of that fourth guy. He would be a cap casualty, but again, they have $26 million in cap, so what do they really need that cap for? I don't really see a whole lot of guys that they didn't already purge off of this roster that are that far outside of a chance to get cut that was a starter last year.
I'm going to defer and let Kent go because I have two answers. So I'm going to see if he takes one of them and just talk about the other.
So I think it happens at the start at the safety position.
Oh.
If we're not saying Dan Sorensen, Jordan Lucas has no guaranteed money on his contract. So
does that really count as a starter, though? Does that count as a starter?
Hey, he started at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, does he count as a starter? I don't know. I think he did start some. Dan Sorensen, then. Fine. Just Dan.
All right. So I think the obvious one is Tyreek Hill, just in case something wild else comes out. Like there's still a chance something else comes out. And I think that would make him like the most likely if you're putting odds to something. I don't think it's going to, but there's still a chance. I would put his odds up there the highest. A sneaky one for me might be Cam Irving. If he does, in fact, lose the battle with Andrew Wiley and they like some of the other depth they have with Allegretti, Khalil McKenzie going forward, I mean, I think there's a use for Cam Irving as a swing tackle, as a guy that can play all the positions along the offensive line. But if there was a reason to need money, and I think he saves just a little bit, not a lot, but he's a guy that they might not need that saves a little bit of money, allows younger guys to get in there. He would kind of be a dark horse guy for me. But I mean, those are the two guys that I was kind of thinking of, and I was hoping you were going to take one, so I didn't have to go with two answers.
So I just as a quick double check on Cam Irving, I don't know how it doesn't look like he would save all that much. It'd actually be a pretty high dead cap. So that was just thinking.
Dark horse Cam Irving cut.
I get the logic though. I totally get the logic though. Now trade trade. That's true.
You get a player for Cam Irving. He's worth the minimal amount of money. Like if you can go out and like get a corner that is better than CB3
for Cam Irving.
Nah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to be dead, but like if the asset that you're getting back's worth it,
right?
I mean, that does. I mean,
I'm surprised they didn't go with Reggie Ragland. To be honest, we know how much he is.
I've kind of, and honestly, a lot of like, even based on the last couple of weeks, like I think a lot of my thoughts have kind of evolved, and one of those is like I think Reggie Ragland is actually going to wind up making the team.
Summer of Spags.
Yeah, I mean. Your guys' excellent work that you all should be reading, if you haven't, on arrowheadpride.com, convinced me. I was starting to be a little more convinced beforehand, but you guys really have killed this article. Like, that stuff is ridiculously good, and I hope everyone is getting a chance to read it because there's a lot there, and sometimes it'll answer these questions that we're getting a lot in the mailbags. Because we get a lot of linebacker questions. A lot. Bama Fan 7 asks, do you have any game day superstitions? I have zero. I have zero. I'm not a particularly superstitious person. I know Maddie has a fantastic superstition, and I'm very excited for the world to hear this one.
All right, so my so-called superstition is I wake up nice and early in the morning, play with the child a little bit, my daughter. We hang out, drink some coffee. As the coffee's kind of getting going, we slide on the Chiefs shirt. We get my sneakers on. We head over to the gym. We have a nice, intense leg day. We're talking like come close to puking because of an intense leg day. It's got to be a hard one. It's just what it is. We come home. Hopefully it's a 1 o'clock game here for me. That's just enough time to eat breakfast, shower, sit down to watch the Chiefs. The Chiefs actually only lost one game last year where I got to follow the entire superstition, and that was the first New England Patriots game. Besides that, every game the Chiefs lost, I actually had to miss the gym that weekend. So I'm sorry, guys. That is kind of on me. And, outside obligations, I'm going to do better this year.
I used to have a very thorough game day superstition. I had a Derek Johnson jersey that wasn't washed in like 3 years. And I was at some pretty heavy drinking tailgates where people were spilling stuff all over it and, food gets on it, stuff like that. So it was a pretty nasty smelling jersey there. But after I started writing, I didn't get to do some of the things that I do because I chart while the game's going on. So, having a couple beers in the first half to try and counteract in certain scenarios no longer works anymore because then all of a sudden I get done with it and it's a mess. So I don't anymore. When I go to games, definitely do. I try and have several in the parking lot, as anybody who has listened to the radio show pregame might
I was wondering
know.
if you're going to go there.
Yeah, might have picked up on that fact. But
it was radio gold. It was like it was hilarious. That 1 week.
It was a playoff game. It was a Patriots playoff game. Yeah. But, yeah. So I got a couple that I still get to do, but for the most part, no, not anymore.
I didn't know there was more to Maddie's than just doing squats. It's like wears a Chiefs jersey to
jersey, no, shirt, not a jersey.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah. Rocket Chief 88 asks, the Chiefs do not make the Super Bowl and you can't use an injury to Mahomes as your answer.
They lose a game in the playoffs?
That's such
a cop-out. That's a terrible answer.
The Chiefs don't make the Super Bowl if they line up offsides on an important third down. Okay.
All right, Greg, what do you have for us?
Realistically, the Chiefs don't make it to the Super Bowl if the defense has more communication errors than I think we're leading on right now. Spag's defense, while coming across as simple by some of the players, there's a lot of variance to it. There's a lot of different stuff out there. There's a lot of different coverages, adjustments, alerts, stuff like that. There's a good chance in year one under Steve Spagnuolo, there's going to be a lot of miscommunication issues, things that are going to lead to big plays in untimely situations. And you just kind of hope by the playoff time that stuff's at a minimum. But there's a chance that stuff like that could be their undoing in the playoffs. I think once everyone's clicking on the same page, this team absolutely has the ability to make the Super Bowl. It's just a matter of can they get there in year one with an entirely new defensive concept in place.
I'm going to say if the cornerbacks play at their average, I've stated multiple times that this group of cornerbacks needs to play above what we've seen from them on a year-to-year basis thus far in order for this defense to be good. So if they're playing average, they're going to get exploited in some scenarios. They could run into a buzzsaw in the playoffs that is just able to throw and pick on the cornerback. So I'm going with that.
I'll say the Chiefs do not make the Super Bowl if the situation with the pass catcher doesn't get settled. I mean, Travis Kelce is coming off an injury. We know about the Tyreek Hill situation. We don't know if Sammy Watkins is going to be able to stay healthy for 16 games or 19 games. I think that situation, it's still pretty murky. If things don't if things go middle of the road with that whole situation, just the list of issues that they have at the pass catchers, like they need a couple of things to go right for that group to really be solidified, or some of that things go right is a bad word choice on some of that, but I think you kind of get my point. Chief Boyard DG, out of Mahomes' possible young quarterback rivals, who will be the most exciting to watch him duel with? The actual best competition, and who will be the guy the media hyped up but isn't actually in this league? I love this question. Most exciting to watch duel, I'll start on this one. It's Deshaun Watson because of the draft where they were drafted. They drafted him before him. Deshaun Watson, his rookie year, had all this hype, all this love. People thought he was the second coming. And then Patrick Mahomes went out and did Patrick Mahomes things. I've got, in my head at least, I've got this little comparison in my head kind of thing. So I'm always excited to watch them go head to head.
Yeah, that's the same one for me, especially if the secondary is not playing as well, because then Deshaun Watson's YOLO balls will be even more successful.
Little shade.
Little shade.
Little shade there.
Deshaun's one of those guys that can keep you in a game. So he is probably going to be the most exciting to watch duel going forward. And yeah, like Kent said, they're going to be linked because those two guys were just linked before the draft and they're going to be linked after the draft. So yeah, he's mine too.
The most exciting to watch duel, it's kind of a tricky question. I'm actually going to go with Kyler Murray, and I didn't want to go with him just because I don't think they're going to play each other that much. So I kind of thought that was a cop-out.
They won't. That's cute. Playoffs, Super Bowl.
Drew Lock was the obvious answer here because they're actually going to play each other multiple times, whereas these other guys we're going to barely see. But most excited about, I want to see Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes just going at it. I think that'd be a lot of fun to watch. I don't think they're necessarily that close in talent level, but it would be fun to watch.
So the best competition, Gregory.
I'm going to say Baker Mayfield. I almost went with him on exciting to watch duel, but I decided to save him for this.
We saw that already. It was boring.
Well, I'm thinking like full on Texas Tech, Oklahoma, all out war there. The Browns, regardless of what you think of Baker's mental state or the team or who's leading them or anything like that, Baker Mayfield does get up for big games. I think that any time that you're playing against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs from here on out is going to be a big game. I think that could turn into a shootout.
Yeah, and that's my exact same logic to where I was going to pick Baker Mayfield here too. I think he's also going to be the most exciting. It's just he's also the best competition, so I wanted to save him for this one. Baker Mayfield to me was my number one quarterback coming out that year he came out. I would have probably put him right up there below Patrick Mahomes, but he would have probably been my quarterback too that year. I thought he was that good as a prospect. So just seeing what he did last year and as he progressed as the year went on, I think Baker's an easy choice for the next best young quarterback to me.
Sweep it, actually. So I do think Baker's probably the best competition. So, yeah, there you go. Guy that the media hypes. And, Matt, you can't say Mecole.
That's fine. I'm surprised you guys used this guy already, but Deshaun Watson, 100% is the guy that the media hypes too much for throwing YOLO balls. Deshaun Watson's a good player. He's a good job. He's very athletic. He throws the ball well with touch on the move. He just throws a lot of balls up in the air and expects his wide receivers to make a play for him. And they did a fantastic job of it when he was a rookie. Last year, they weren't as good as it as a whole. And yes, there's other issues with the team around him, but I think Watson needs more help than some of these other guys to have that level of a year. And I think you're going to see his rookie year, especially that small stretch where he was throwing like 18 interceptable passes, but only coming away with 1 or 2 interceptions out of it, is going to be a little bit more. It's not something he's going to be able to repeat year after year. He's a guy that just got a lot of hype because he played at Clemson, because he had these big performances by just letting Nuke Hopkins go crazy on defenses.
Mecole Trubisky.
Is he even hyped up?
No,
Mitchell.
I don't even. It doesn't even
Mitchell.
count.
Oh, come
It doesn't
on.
even count.
No, come on. He gets hyped all the time. People talk about him as being
they
a $200 million player. There are people that talk about him as getting a giant contract. After
$200 million. Is he signing a 200-year contract?
I have no idea. I just see enough people that talk about him as a player that it's like, oh, he's still putting it together. Oh, he's still coming. Matt Nagy's going to turn him around. Patrick Mahomes with that defense would have gone undefeated. They would have gone 19-0 last year. Mecole Trubisky is not good.
He's ungood. He's really bad.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, did we mess up here? Are Carson Wentz and Jared Goff not in this conversation? Because I didn't include them.
I was probably gonna go Goff.
Okay.
Even though I think the answer is Deshaun Watson.
I didn't include them.
I was thinking they were older.
Okay.
Yeah, they were a year before. They were only taking a year before Mahomes though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz
still on their rookie
a
deal.
lot older.
Carson is already 35.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff is busy finding out where the sun rises or sets. Or
I was thinking about Deshaun Watson's a guy I think the media hypes too much. I think Jared Goff's in that same boat too.
Lamar. I mean, if Mitchell Trubisky counts, Lamar Jackson
I don't
count.
Is the media really hype?
No, Lamar's getting that counter hype where everybody is just crapping on Lamar all the time for being a terrible quarterback. So you got some people that are coming on going, hey guys, he's not as bad as you're making him out to be.
Are you talking about Lamar or Mitchell Trubisky?
I don't know how Hollywood Brown's going to be utilized. I keep thinking about this. What are they going to do? They're going to run end rounds.
Quadruple option.
Craig, do you want to take a couple questions?
Yeah, let's go to the chat here. We got Chris Albright asks, are you guys worried about Burfict and Incognito when playing
a little bit
against the Oakland Raiders?
I'm a little bit terrified of Vontaze Burfict and what he might just do yes. The answer is yes.
I saw Vontaze Burfict attempt to tackle Kareem Hunt like 8 times, then get injured in the process, so he no longer scares me.
He's crazy enough to do something stupid, though. That's where
Incognito's crazier.
Trying to make a tackle.
Like, yeah, but he can't get near Patrick Mahomes, so like I don't whatever.
Are you sure? Are you sure Incognito can't?
Maybe not.
He could take out Chris Jones's knee or Frank Clark's knee or I'm not looking forward to playing against those guys.
Richie Incognito is more of a threat to Derek Carr's self-esteem than he is anybody else. Be real.
Man. Nobody's a threat to Derek Carr's self-esteem. He just doesn't have
Derek Carr is the easiest target in social media. I found myself making a lot of Derek Carr jokes lately. I don't know why.
Because he's easy. Gary Holland, who do you think the best UDFA will be to make the team? Who's going to make the team from the UDFA class? Cody Thompson, I think, we all think, is going to make this team.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, guys. 2 locks. Gary Johnson, James Williams. You heard it here first. Folks.
Kent.
What?
I realize you've been out of it a little bit lately with your sickness. Yeah.
Lost my facial hair for a while. It kind of really messed things up too.
Those guys, you might want to check the roster. Just check it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Oh
That'll do it for this week's episode of the AP Laboratory.
Please put in a headphone warning.
I really tried to I tried to do it up here so it would be away from the mic. Let's close it out on that because I think that's just a great way to close this thing out. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. We will be back. Actually, I won't be. I'll be on vacation. Craig and Matt will be back with a special guest next week on the live stream and the mailbag episode next week. We'll catch you later.
You will be here Thursday.
It's true. You will be here Thursday.
I will.
Kids trying to duck out of the Thursday.
I was talking about the mailbag aspect.
That was so loud.
I know. I'm sorry. I thought I got far enough away, but I just. Oh well.
Oh man.
The chat loved it.
Of new Rita Spritz.
What was that?
With a Rita.
That may be me pulling up the stream.
Are you watching a commercial?
It's moved on already.
It commercialed me once I clicked it on there. Well, I'm trying to pull it up so I can read chat, But it's struggling along right now, so we're just going to let you guys read chat to me.
Which sports pods do we listen to? I think that's a good question. I really like. Oh, you guys go.
Yahoo Sports NFL. Teresa's podcast is awesome and hilarious. He and Charles Robinson drop knowledge on that. You can read between the lines a little bit. And then they do movie review podcasts. They just did Any Given Sunday, and that is one of my all-time favorite crazy football movies. And they did it justice. It was amazing to listen to them talk about it.
The draft day one had me crying, literally laughing out loud. It was so good. I listened to Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah. I listened to the Draft Dudes. I listened to Locked On NFL Draft. I really like those guys. And I'm always starving for draft content. I listen to my guy Matt Miller with Stick to Football. Mm-hmm. I will listen. I try not to listen too much to in market stations, but because you don't want to get your takes intertwined with other people's. You want your own takes. You don't want to utilize someone else's or inorganically. I try to avoid that kind of stuff. Every now and then, I'll listen to the 4th and 1 podcast with Nick. Our guy Nick Jacobs, so I'll listen to him some. In the trenches,
USA football coach and coordinator is great.
Yes.
If you want to learn anything, they go way deep on some stuff.
Listen to the PFF NFL podcast, press coverage with Eric Crocker. Chris Sims unbuttoned. He's actually ranking quarterbacks right now, so that's been kind of fun.
Chris Sims is whatever.
He's a fun listen. He makes when you listen to a lot of podcasts, he makes it kind of fun sometimes. And then since we're talking podcasts, it's not a sports podcast at all, but All Fantasy Everything is a podcast that everybody should listen to at all times. It is absolutely amazing, and you can kill 2 hours so incredibly fast with just one episode.
What is it?
It's comedians that just do fantasy drafts of random topics.
Literally anything.
They just did like Tom Hanks movies. They've done like MTV shows, stuff like that. But All Fantasy Everything.
Kit is subscribing right now.
I literally am.
It might be my favorite podcast right now. It's hilarious.
All Fantasy Everything, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been listening to, and this isn't football related. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda was on this week. Going to see Hamilton this weekend, so kismet. But yeah.
I hate you. Martin Short was on there.
Oh, Martin Short's amazing.
Oh, it's so good. Thomas Middleditch and Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz, yeah.
I've been listening to it, and like Bob Newhart was on it.
The Howard Stern interview might be the best episode of all.
So I haven't listened to one because I'm not really a Howard Stern guy.
Well, and I'm not necessarily either, but I'm telling you, you got to listen to that one.
It's Adam Sandler. That one is so good.
Smoker and the Bearcat. I definitely need to listen to that
Trust the Tape with Dane Brugler for
yes,
draft season.
Whatever he's doing. I think he's kind of in an off season.
He is in off season. The Tomahawk with Joe Thomas and Anthony Hawkins is another good one. Yeah, these are back to sports podcasts.
We're literally just going through all the podcasts that we listen. This is
I'm literally like looking through my.
I don't really listen to music in the car. I'm not much of a music guy. So I just listen to podcasts to and from driving anywhere, or if I'm like outside grilling or something, not in and out. So listen to a lot of podcasts about different stuff. Sometimes it's just on in the background. Other times I'm actually paying attention. All depends on what it is.
Yeah. I listen to a ton of comedy podcasts. Tons and tons.
Listen to more.
I do the Rosenthal.
Listening to the Conan one, I've realized.
Jeselnik Vanity Project, or maybe they've changed the name now on Comedy Central with Anthony Jeselnik and Greg Rosenthal of the Around the NFL podcast. But those guys are pretty fun.
Yeah.
It gets a little wild sometimes, but overall, it's a pretty fun podcast. Comedy podcasts are things that are growing on me right now. Like I've been mostly sports, but comedy podcasts have grown on me a lot lately.
Improv one specifically for me. I just love it. Love it. Comedy Bang Bang. Doug Loves Movies. How Did This Get Made?
Doug Loves Movies is a good one.
Yeah. Super Ego. Pistol Shrimps Radio was great. These two guys that did play-by-play for a women's rec basketball league in LA.
When you have time in between farming, growing crops, fixing 18-wheelers, designing airplanes.
Fixing 18-wheelers. When did that drop in?
And creating beer. Where do you have the time to listen to all these podcasts?
You got to listen to stuff while you're doing stuff.
Also, Amateur Hour. I listen to Amateur Hour. Shout out to Dirk and Ryan, but they're on hiatus forever. But I love you.
Yep. Who would be a surprise cut that you think could be realistic?
Daniel Sorensen.
Is that a surprise anymore?
It's the pendulum keeps swinging, and right now for me it would be a little bit of a surprise.
Okay.
Just the way and the vibes I'm getting.
Armani Watts.
You ask me to,
Armani Watts would be a surprise. I do think that they like him a lot. I think they like Brett Veach. Brett Veach talks about him all the time. Like,
how many DBs is a team going to carry though?
I don't know.
I know, and like we were talking earlier about these starters and stuff. Like, how many are they keeping 5 safeties? Yes or no?
I think you got to start with DBs. Like if you're keeping 11 DBs, I could see 5 safeties. If you're only keeping 10, it gets a little bit more dicey unless you trust some of them in man coverage. And really, I guess the 2 safeties they do have starting, you do feel better about like in real coverage if they had to play corner. But 5 corners only on this team is a big roll of the dice to me. So that's why I could see a 6-4 split if you're only keeping 10. And if you're doing 6-4, Sorensen, Watts, that's kind of what it comes down to.
I know. It does.
Sam, I don't know if Sam's still listening, but earmuffs on this if you are. Tremont Smith. They've got if Tremont Smith isn't a cornerback, they've got a lot of dudes that can return. Like they drafted 2. What does that tell you? So if you don't think Tremont Smith's a good cornerback, are you sure you're keeping him as a? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Derek Ferguson suggested Colquitt.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know how much money they really save.
Tube talked about Fox a little bit. Tobe, sorry. Tobe talked about him.
Pan.
A little bit and said he's got the leg, but he just needs a lot of work situationally punting. He's got a lot of work to do figuring out, his range and where placement and everything like that. So I don't know. That would definitely be a huge surprise at this point, but I think that Colquitt's fairly safe on this roster.
I tend to agree, but surprise cut?
That's not bad. They brought somebody in.
It's not a bad suggestion.
Yeah. How many TDs does Mahomes throw this season? 57.
Wow.
46.
44.
And runs 2. 46 and runs 2.
44 right-handed. 42 left-handed. 1 with his foot somehow.
I think that's illegal.
No, they made it legal for him.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's really awesome.
He's going to do this scorpion. Throw it up behind his head and kick it forward.
I dig it.
So like a frontwards bicycle kick.
Yeah.
Also, he's going to play a little bit of corner. So all of you guys that have been freaking out.
Never mind, we're good.
About the cornerback position, he's actually going to line up.
He's going to be a thick corner.
Yeah, but if there's anybody on this roster that could actually work his ass off enough to get to where he needed to do to learn a new position, it's him.
If you need a stop, do you not want Patrick Mahomes on the field? I do.
Looking guys the corner, we might as well just put Mecole Hardman back in his natural position.
Safety? He's got the speed to play safety.
Jar, Matt. This is going to be a fun bit. I can't wait. I think we should probably close this thing out. Shouldn't we, Craig?
YouTube comments.
Thank you all for joining us for this yet another live stream. Thanks for sticking with us through the entire thing. We will be back next week. Kent will not, but we will have a special guest on here. We're going to have a lot of fun, me and Maddie and our guest. So thanks again for joining us. Have a great night.